beautiful Nomies, and welcome back to my channel. This is Nova Gnome Creations, and I'm Nova, and I am so happy to see you today. I hope you are doing well, and I hope you're having a great week so far. Today is already the 28th, so it is the last day of February. Where is the month going? Where did the month go? Because the month already got up and gone. This year is just like zooming by. It's crazy that it's going to be the third month of the year already. So tomorrow I will be popping out that calendar with the little crochet fairies in it and showing you guys what March's fairy is. But for today, let us celebrate February and the last day of February. So if you forgot, it is the 28th and this month is shorter. So you may not have even realized. I know that I always like forget. Like I'm like, wait, the end of the month is now? It's crazy. So I hope everybody had a great February, and I hope that you are all doing wonderful, and I hope your families are doing wonderful. Today I am popping on here with a little bit of a challenge of sorts. So, if you guys have never seen Craftably Ever After, it is Cassandra's channel, and I will be linking her in the description box, so you could check her out if you would like to. She recently, like 2 weeks ago, did a, video. It was the video that her son edited, which was so fun. I actually really loved that video. And she did a remake of her first Amigurumi. And I was like, this actually is so fun, and I need to do one too. And she was like, yes, you need to do this. So I kind of forgot about it a little bit, and then I did it, and then I have had a lot of other content that I've been working on too. So I've just kind of been having them sit here for a few days, and I'm like, okay, today's the day. I'm making my first Amigurumi versus now remaking it video. So, for full disclosure, I did kind of make other amigurumi. I'm like, I have my other hand out of camera, and I'm like quoting. So this is what happened, guys. And you may know this story already if you've been here for a while, but I'm just going to tell you anyways. So when I started crocheting, I started out with making granny squares. That's how I learned to crochet. I was on a really long car ride from Michigan to Texas. If you don't know, it is like a 20-hour car ride, not including bathroom breaks, eating, stretching your legs, sleeping. It takes several days. It's like if you just drove straight there with no stops and no traffic, 20 hours. So I had a lot of time on my hands. So I put my hands to work, and I had this kit that I had bought, which was the boy, like learn to crochet kit, and it came with like a little booklet and a set of crochet hooks. And then I think it actually came with like a couple little novelties, really, really bad quality novelties, like the little spiral stitch markers and stuff. So I had that, and I had never even opened it. I actually got it anticipating doing it after a surgery during like recovery, and I never like opened it, and that's like a whole story of its own. So it just had been sitting for like months, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this in the car with me, and this is going to be my car project. So over the course of the car ride, learned how to make a granny square. And I have a video all about my granny squares, and it is a pretty fun video, if I do say so myself. It was for National Granny Square Day. I will go find that video and put it in the description box in case you're curious what my granny squares looked like. But they started out really rough, and I just kept trying, and it took me forever to make a granny square, and they were not great granny squares, but I learned how to do it. So I messed around a little bit more after we, obviously after the car ride, kind of perfecting my granny square, and then I didn't crochet for like a couple of months. We were moving, there was just a lot going on, and then I decided to get back into crocheting. Well, now I'm like, hey, I know how to crochet now. Because I was like, I crocheted a granny square, I know how to crochet. So I started trying to do amigurumi without having any idea. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. And this was like still back in the days where I didn't even know that like yarn had hook sizes that you're supposed to use and stuff. I didn't know how to read a ball band. Most of my yarn was, stuff I bought at Goodwill. I bought like a big like gallon Ziploc bag of like just balls of yarn. So I didn't have yarn labels to even try to figure out. So I was just like, you know, using whatever hook I picked up. So what I started doing was making basically appliques and sewing them together, and I would be like, oh, here's a bear head, or here's this. And I did that like it was my practice, and it was good practice, like doing single crochets and doing shapes and stuff like that. But my first actual amigurumi was a bee. You guys ready to see this? So here is my first actual amigurumi. And I have no idea what hook size I used with this. Very clearly not the right hook size. But I just want to give you guys a moment to really absorb. Trying not to have that light be too focused. Giving you guys a moment to truly absorb the first amigurumi. So obviously you can see the polyfill through the stitches. They are very much not tight stitches, very loose stitches. And actually, I do know that I went back and tried to sew shut some of the holes, because there were like gaping holes in the face and stuff. So this is like after my attempts to fix it a little bit. Now you want to see something really funny about the stitch job and the stuffing job, you guys? This is going to look brutal. Are you ready? It is like, you can wad it up because it is very, very loosely stitched and not stuffed tightly. So it's really funny. It's so different. Honestly, it is super soft and it is still super cute, even though it's technically not made correctly. Let me turn this down so that it's not glowing. There we go. Okay, and so we have this one. Wow, it looks so dark. Ah, it's still glowing. What the heck? Okay, give me one moment. I need to... It's because my light is right here, so when I hold something over here, the light is like a foot from my project. And then that's why it's doing that. Give me one moment while I figure out the best way to do this. Okay, I think this is the best that we're gonna get. It's just gonna be like this. So yeah, here is my first amigurumi, and I recreated this amigurumi with the exact same yarn. I actually had all of these yarns. These are the premier yarn from the Dollar Tree, the chenille one. I think it's called just chenille, or just yarn chenille or something like that. And it's in these springy colors, which I never see this yarn at the Dollar Tree anymore. My Dollar Tree locally, like, it just has a horrible selection for yarn. But, yeah, so that's the colors that were in this, and I actually still had little bits of the yarn for this. So, yeah. So I was able to recreate it using the exact same yarn. And what I did was I used the techniques that I now make amigurumi with. So I used the size of hook that I normally use. I stuffed it the way that I normally stuff. Basically, I just made a bee, the exact same bee, by the way, same stitch count, same row count, should be exactly the same. Okay, I am going to insert any clips or pictures I took during the process here so that you get those before I show you the bee. Okay, lovelies. So to begin, I'm thinking that the best place to start is just with what I have already made. Now, to learn how to crochet, had bought one of those little boy how to crochet kits, and it came with a hook. It came with some aluminum hooks, actually. I think it may have even came with the whole set. But I really had no idea what size I should be using, and I just kind of felt it out a little bit. But of course, I had no idea what it should feel like, what I was going for. And you can tell that my gauge, or my size, is just not right, because you can see the stuffing through. It is very, very holey. And more holey in some spots than others. And also it is very, very squishy. Like, I could like wad this up into a ball because there's not enough stuffing in it. And I didn't know about, you know, packing your stuffing, which It's this wholly without being stuffed very thoroughly, guys. I can't imagine if I actually packed this and stuffed it really, really, really well. So this is what we have. This was what my first little bee looked like, and I'm going to recreate it. And I actually have the exact same yarn. So hopefully this is enough to make this bee. I think it will be. And this is just the dollar store just yarn chenille. And I believe that they still have these colors. I can never find yarn at the Dollar Tree anymore. I can never find the chenille yarns at the Dollar Tree anymore. It's so wholly in the face. I even think I tried to sew some of the holes up in the face. Like these safety eyes, they would totally come out in a heartbeat. And speaking of heartbeat, I also later added some hearts to the cheeks when I went on a little spree last year on Valentine's Day, putting heart cheeks on everything. So let's get into it. So I'm going to start with the pink. If I can find the beginning. I haven't used this yarn in quite some time. Typically when I use chenille yarns nowadays, I like to use Parfait Chunky. That is my go-to. But it is also a chenille. It is also a Premier yarn. Believe it or not, these Dollar Tree yarns are Premier. So, and one of the little tricks that I do is I just quickly melt the tips. And you don't even have to put it into the flame if you are taking your time a little bit more and not trying to rush. You can just kind of hold it above it and you'll watch it just shrivel up from the heat. And it just kind of melts the fibers and it'll keep it from shedding. So this type of yarn is really prone to shedding. So I'm going to start out with the key thing that I think needs to be different for this plushie. I have no idea what size hook I used, but I am going to try out using a 3.5 and see how I feel about that. Because I typically treat my chenille yarns more like a worsted yarn when it comes to amigurumi, but I will also say, and it should still be fine, but I will also say that the Dollar Tree chenille yarn is very, very like thin and soft. It's not as like thick as the Parfait Chunky is. So let me grab a stitch marker. That's another thing. I have no idea if I had stitch markers. I think I did. I think I was using those little springs. I don't know if you guys have ever seen those little like spring style stitch markers. I'm pretty sure that I was using that because that's what my Learn to Crochet kit came with. So right now I am just doing 6 single crochets into this magic circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is just my basic bee that I do. And you can like, honestly, bees are super easy to do. All you need to do is do a magic circle and then increase until you get to the size that you want your bee to basically be. And keep in mind, it will be a little bit wider than it is when you're like making your magic circle, increasing your magic circle. As you go to like straighten out into the body, it will get a little bit wider. But basically you just do that, and I usually just do that for like 2 rounds of increasing. And then the way that you increase when it comes to amigurumi, see how much tighter and better that is looking? Let me grab a note and I will write this down just in case anyone is interested. Okay, so basically, let's just say basic bee. Once you've made bees a few times, or possibly even one time, you will start to just kind of know how to make a bee. Sorry, I was focusing the camera there. But you're always going to start out with a magic circle. And I typically always default to doing 6 single crochets into my magic circle. I don't think I've ever made a bee that wasn't 6 single crochets in a magic circle. And then you just do a straight up increase round. And then you're going to, and like I said, this depends on how big you want your bee. You can stop at any point. So like, well, I'll mark it in a second so that you can remember. You're going to do this for your first increasing. That's going to give you 12 stitches. If you want to keep going, you're going to increase 1 time and single crochet 1 time. And you're going to do that 6 times. And you'll just literally be alternating stitches. You don't even have to keep count really. And then that will give you 18 stitches. And then you could stop. Literally, you could stop here. You could stop here. For this particular bee, I believe that I did up to here. I think that gives you 24 stitches. So single crocheting twice and then doing an increase and then just going around like that. And then this is like how you get up to the size that you want. So you're going to do your magic circle, you're going to do your increasing, then you're going to do single crochet increase, single crochet 2 increase. And then I just started doing, single crochet rounds. Pretty sure I just showed you the back end, by the way, and not the front. I think my magic circle is actually right here. So that's going to give you a better idea. But yeah, so magic circle, increases, single crochet increases, 2 single crochet increases, and then you see how it starts to just tube up? That's because I stopped increasing. So then I would just do like single crochet, and I would do this for a couple of rounds. And then switch color. Then single crochet for a couple of rounds. And this is just because you're making a bee and you're going to want to alternate and do the striping. So right now we did this, we switched colors and did this. Then you'll switch colors again. And single crochet for 2 rounds. And like I said, this is really customizable. You could do as many rounds as you want. You could do, if you're trying to make a smaller bee, you can just do 1 round. If you're trying to make a really long bee, you could do more rounds. So we did this, we did this. I'm just going to put etc. because you get the idea. You could switch colors again, switch colors again. And then basically you're just going to do the reverse. My cat is on the desk. I don't know if you heard him jump up here. Till length desired. And then you're basically going to do the opposite of what you did in the beginning to close off your bee. So the last thing we did was 2 single crochets and an increase. So the next, or to close our bee, we would do 2 single crochets and a decrease. And then that would start to close up our bee. So then the next round would be just 1 single crochet. I already started to write a 1. I don't normally write a 1. I just put single crochet, but that's okay. With a decrease, and that's going to get you down to 12. And then, since when we had 12, what did we do? We were just doing straight up increases to get to 12. So you're just going to do straight up decreases. And that is how you do it. And then you just close up your bee. So if anybody is interested in screenshotting that, give me just a second. I'm going to grab some highlighters and make it a little bit more easy to understand. All right, so basic bee. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just marking where you would switch colors. And then I'm also going to go ahead and mark where you could potentially end. So you could potentially end and just start going into the single crocheting rounds on any of these and further. You could continue to get bigger. So I'm going to put this little plus here. You could continue to do single crochet 3 increase, single crochet 4 increase until you get to the size you want. You could make a ginormous bee if you wanted to. And that is where the etc. till length desired would come in too. If you're making a really big bee, you might want to make it longer to go along with the size that you've done. So then you might want to do more rounds. But literally you're just going to switch colors, do 2 rounds, switch colors, do 2 rounds. And do that until you get to the length you want. And then you will just start doing the opposite of what you did in the beginning. Like I said, so you did single crochet 2 increase. You're going to do single crochet 2 decrease. So I hope that makes sense. And if you would like to screenshot it so that you have a basic bee pattern that you can customize, here you go. I also do have a little tiny bee tutorial, and I will link that in the description box in case you are just more interested in following along with a tutorial. And it's for a little bite-sized bee that's like this big. So, but it follows the same kind of rules. It's just you're making it tiny. Okay, so now that we're back from that little tangent, I am doing increasing right now. So something that I would do differently that I maybe didn't do in my first one, I'm just going to assume I made a lot of mistakes I remember making at the beginning in this. And one of them would be when using chenille yarn, especially in the beginning, it's a good idea to keep count because it is really easy to miss a stitch or add an extra stitch. So currently I have done 2 increases, which is going to be 4 stitches. I am working into 6 single crochets, so I'll be doing 6 increases. So here is my 3rd increase. My 4th increase. My 5th increase. And finally my 6th increase. So something cool about chenille yarn or velvet yarn or any of these types of yarns, blanket yarn, things like that, if you are keeping count and your count is off and you're getting, you know, to the end and you're supposed to have an extra stitch, or you're having one too many stitches or whatever, it is really forgiving for you to just why is the only word wanting to come to my head fudge. It is very easy for you to fudge what you're doing, so you don't have to go back and undo a whole round or undo several rounds. If you notice your stitch count is off, you can just kind of add in an extra stitch, or, you know, remove a stitch, and you're not really going to notice because you can't really see the individual stitches that well. So something cool to keep in mind. People are usually really like intimidated working with like these sorts of yarns, I've noticed, because you can't see your stitches, but that actually can be something that works to your advantage if you're not really that familiar with amigurumi, especially. So I actually started out using yarns that are not like yarns that you should usually start out using, and I actually feel like it made me a better crocheter to start out using those yarns, and it helped me to stick to it. So basically I feel like it made me a better crocheter because I learned how to use some of the more difficult yarns early on in my crochet journey, and I feel like it helped me to stick to it and feel like I was doing a good job because it is more forgiving. And of course I did make more mistakes too because I wasn't, you know, having the right stitch counts and stuff sometimes, but it all worked out. So I am now doing single crochet increase, and I'm going to keep count of those too. There's going to be 6 sets of those, so you can either keep count of the fact that you're going to have 12 different things you're doing, or you can keep count of the fact that you're having 6 sets. Which, what I mean by that is there are going to be 12 different stitches that you're going into, but I'm working in, you know, my brackets that I showed you guys. where I'm doing a single crochet and then an increase, and then I'm repeating that again. So you can either count to 12 doing single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase, or you can count to 6 doing single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase. And that's usually what I do because it means that I don't count as high. So I've got my single crochet, and now I'm doing my increase. And that is my first set. Now I'm doing a single crochet and an increase. And that's my second set. Single crochet, increase. That's my third set. Single crochet, increase. Oops. That is my fourth set. Single crochet, increase, and that is my fifth set. And single crochet, increase for my sixth and final set. And if you're having trouble seeing what you're doing, another good tip is to always, like, you can feel out your stitches, especially more so with blanket yarn or like a thicker type of chenille yarn. This one, like I said, is very, very soft and like doesn't have like much of a shape to itself. But with other yarns especially, you can feel out your stitches a little bit more. So look how much better that's looking just by using the right size hook. I am going to go ahead and continue working on this. I think that you guys get the idea of what I'm talking about. And I will speed it up and you guys can just kind of, whoops, you can just kind of watch. And then I will come back and meet back up with you. Just popping back in real quick to give you an update and also to let you know where to attach your eyes if you are also making a bee. So I went ahead and updated the screenshot for you guys. Of course, you'll have to take your own screenshot, but I updated the note for you. So there it is. I added my eyes between rounds 3 and 4 for this particular size of a bee and how many rounds that I did. But I wanted to show you guys something crazy. So I'm doing this bee the exact same way. The only difference really is hook size. Do you guys want to see the size difference between these two bees so far? Let me lay this down on the table. Is that not crazy, you guys? This is the size difference between using the correct hook size. Well, I shouldn't say correct. I don't want to insinuate that there's an incorrect hook size because this is just my preference. And of course, everyone has different preferences and also different abilities. And some people can't work with small crochet hooks and maybe a 3.5 is too small for you. And I don't want to knock that. Anybody should make amigurumi if they want to. And if your stitches are a little bit looser, then that is totally fine. Because guess what? This is still absolutely adorable. I actually still love this bee. I think it is so cute. But I just wanted to, you know, show the differences with a little bit of knowledge on what I'm doing and how I do things now versus when I started and I didn't really know what I was doing. But yeah, that size difference is absolutely insane. It's just so funny how different the yarn looks too. Those stitches just look completely different. So curious what size hook I was using here. I would have thought, you know, maybe a 5, but I guess, you know, the thing is, I really had no idea what kind or what size hook I was supposed to be using. I don't know what size hook this yarn tells you to use on the ball band, but in my experience, they classify these as bulky yarns, and that's why I say I treat them as worsted yarns when I'm doing amigurumi, because they classify these as bulky yarns because of all the fluff. But they're not actually like so thick that you can't use a smaller hook. You don't necessarily need to use a 3.5 hook. You could definitely do like a 4 and probably get relatively similar results. But yeah, so I don't even think I was using a 5 though. Now that I'm working this up, I'm like, that might have been like a 6, 7. So curious, but I have no idea. But yeah, that's the difference we're looking at right now. Now that I have got my eyes in and let you guys know where those go, I am going to go ahead and finish off the bee, and then I will come back and I will show you what it looks like when I am done. Okay, now that you've seen any little clips or process pictures that I took, I am going to actually bring you down a little bit because I think that this will be the best way to give you good lighting and show you a comparison. So we're going to put you down on this lovely angle. So here is my first amigurumi. All right. There you go. Look at the back. It's such a mess. What is even going on? And same yarn, same pattern, like exactly using the hook size and stuffing techniques that I would do now. Now do you see why I had to stress so heavily that it was the same hooks or same yarn and same exact pattern, same exact stitch count, same exact amount of rows? The difference is, for one, I know about hook sizes and what sizes to use for amigurumi. And two, I have more experience. So I just know what I'm doing a little bit more. Look at the size difference, you guys. Isn't that insane? Same exact yarn, same exact pattern. I literally can't even make this up. But yeah, this literally cracked me up so much. Now I will move you guys back up to a reasonable height. But I thought that the view and the lighting and everything was a little bit better like that. But I will show you guys up here next to me now. Isn't that insane? I even have, these are the same heart cheeks, the same heart felt cutouts. Because I had, my sister did up a little baggie of them for me, and I still have some. So literally the only thing different at all is I use different eyes. Everything else is the same exact felt hearts, same size of felt hearts, same exact yarn, same exact pattern. Including the wings, like literally everything, same exact pattern. Isn't that insane? So I'm super glad that I still had this first amigurumi bee. I have honestly been like wondering what to do with it for the longest time, but I just couldn't bring myself to get rid of it. And now I'm glad. Now I see why I kept it. But yeah, thankfully I have improved a lot. Like I said, there's still a charm to this bee though. I do still like it. But it's safe to say that I've definitely improved. And also it's just insane to see the difference in how my projects come out. With experience and like the way, I guess, my techniques. Because not everybody does everything exactly the same. But yeah, so I also have some pictures of these finished so you could really see the stitch definition and all of that good stuff. So I will definitely include those after I finish off talking to you guys. So if you have your first amigurumi, and I know some of you guys are relatively new to diving into amigurumi, maybe you've been crocheting for like a million years, but you never did amigurumi until recently, so you may still have your amigurumis. It would be super fun if you recreated your first amigurumi and sent pictures in for community spotlight. So I am challenging you guys who want to participate, who want to have a little fun, do a little experiment. If you have either your first amigurumi or you have pictures of your first amigurumi, try recreating it and do like 2 pictures. You can either put them side by side, or if you just have a photo of your first amigurumi and then you make a new one, I can put them side by side for you in my video. And we can do, it would be really fun to have like a little section in our community spotlight of people remaking their first amigurumis, because it is so fun to see how we like grow and improve, and the differences in our styles even, because you know, it may not necessarily be better, but it'll be different because you've like progressed in like your like art style, I guess, of doing amigurumi. So totally do that if you are so inclined. But I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my first amigurumi versus how I would make it now. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. I will see you guys tomorrow for Whip Wednesday, and also unveiling our fairy crochet thing on our calendar, unveiling our March on our calendar. But I hope you all have a great day, and I hope you get to get some crocheting or crafting or knitting or whatever it is that you like to do in today, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, friends!